You have been told your whole life that diabetes is a lifestyle disease, that you got it because you ate too much sugar, did not exercise enough, did not try hard enough, and you have internalized that message so deeply that when the numbers on your glucose monitor climb higher month after month, you blame yourself. You ask what you did wrong. You wonder if your body simply does not respond the way it should. And here is what nobody in that 5-minute appointment has ever told you. You might be doing everything they ask and still getting worse, not because you failed, but because the treatment plan you were given was not designed with your body in mind. There is a reason diabetes destroys black bodies faster. There is a reason our kidneys fail earlier, our vision deteriorates sooner, our limbs are amputated at rates that would be considered a public health emergency if they were happening in any other community. And that reason is not willpower. It is not genetics in the way they want you to think about genetics. It is a pattern of biological differences that modern medicine has documented, published in peer-reviewed journals, and then systematically failed to translate into clinical practice. The data exists. The knowledge exists. What does not exist is a healthcare system that applies that knowledge to you. That gap is why this channel exists. Here at Marcus Webb, Black Health Truth, we do not tell you what to feel. We show you what the research actually says about your body, your ancestry, and your health. And in the next few minutes, you are going to understand exactly why diabetes behaves differently in black bodies, why the complications hit us harder and earlier, and what you can ask your doctor at your very next appointment that could change the trajectory of your health. This is not about scare tactics. This is about information that belongs to you. Let me walk you through what we are going to cover. First, I want you to understand something called insulin resistance, and why the version that shows up in our bodies is not the same as what the textbooks describe. Then, we are going to talk about beta cell function. That is the part of your pancreas that makes insulin. And what the science shows about beta cells in people of African descent will change how you think about your own disease. We will look at advanced glycation end products. Those are the molecules that actually do the damage to your blood vessels, your eyes, your kidneys, your nerves. And finally, I'm going to show you why the complications of diabetes hit our community harder and what that means for how you should be monitored and treated. Let me start with insulin resistance. Your cells need insulin to take in sugar from your blood. When you are insulin resistant, it is like your cells have changed the locks and the insulin key does not fit as well anymore. Your body responds by making more insulin, flooding your system with it, trying to force the doors open. This is where most doctors stop the explanation. What they do not tell you is that the pattern of insulin resistance and the body's response to it varies significantly by ancestry. Research published across multiple journals, including Diabetologia and the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology, has documented that individuals of African descent tend to have higher levels of insulin circulating in their blood, even when their glucose numbers look similar to white individuals. This is called hyperinsulinemia, and for decades, scientists assumed this was simply a compensatory mechanism. Your body makes more insulin because it needs more to do the same job. But more recent studies suggest the story is more complicated. There is evidence that reduced hepatic clearance, meaning the liver does not remove insulin from the blood as efficiently, contributes to these higher levels. This is not about eating differently. This is about how your liver processes a hormone your body makes naturally. Now I know what some of you are thinking. Marcus, my doctor has never mentioned any of this. My doctor has never tested my insulin levels at all. And that is exactly the problem. The standard approach to diabetes care focuses almost entirely on glucose and hemoglobin A1C. Those are important numbers. But if your body is running with chronically elevated insulin levels, that excess insulin is doing damage to your blood vessels, your heart, your brain, long before your glucose readings tell the full story. And if your doctor is not testing for it, they cannot see it. They cannot treat what they do not measure. Let us talk about your beta cells now. These are the cells in your pancreas that produce insulin. In type 2 diabetes, the conventional understanding is that insulin resistance comes first. The beta cells work harder to keep up, and eventually they burn out. But the research shows this progression does not look the same in everyone. A study from the University of Alabama at Birmingham found that Black and African American individuals have a significantly increased risk for what is called severe insulin-deficient diabetes, or SIDD. This subtype looks different from the classic type 2 picture. It involves earlier and more pronounced failure of beta cell function. People with this subtype tend to need insulin therapy sooner. They tend to have poorer glycemic control. And here is the part that should make you angry. They are often misdiagnosed for years because their presentation does not match the expected pattern. Think about what that means for your body. You come in with diabetes, you get metformin, you are told to watch your diet. But if your underlying problem is that your beta cells are failing faster than average, that treatment plan is not addressing your actual disease. You are not failing the plan is failing you. Let me give you a picture. There is a man in his late 40s. He has had diabetes for 6 years. He does everything his doctor tells him. He takes his medication every day. He watches what he eats. He exercises when his joints let him. And every time he goes in for his checkup, his numbers are still too high. He sits in that exam room and thinks, maybe I cheated more than I should have. Maybe I did not walk enough this month. Maybe this is just how my body is. And so he says nothing. He takes the adjusted prescription. He goes home. And the real problem stays inside him, untouched, because no one ever explained that his specific type of diabetes might require a different approach from the beginning. This is happening in clinics across the world right now. People who look like us, who share our ancestry, are being treated with protocols that were developed and tested primarily in populations that do not share our biology. And then, when those protocols do not work as well, the blame falls on us. Now let me explain what is actually happening inside your blood vessels when diabetes goes unchecked. When your blood sugar stays elevated over time, something called glycation occurs. Sugar molecules attach themselves to proteins in your blood. Think of it like rust forming on metal. Once that rust sets in, you cannot simply wipe it away. These sugar-coated proteins become what we call advanced glycation end products. You will hear the abbreviation AGEs, which is appropriate because these molecules age your body from the inside out. AGEs do their damage through multiple pathways. They cross-link with other proteins, making your blood vessels stiff and inflexible. They bind to receptors on your cell surfaces called receptors for advanced glycation end products. And when they do, they trigger inflammation. Your body responds as if it is under attack. Inflammatory markers go up, oxidative stress increases, and this chronic state of low-grade inflammation damages the tiny blood vessels in your eyes, your kidneys, your nerves, everywhere blood flows. Here is the part that connects directly to your lived experience. You know that feeling when your vision gets a little blurry and you think it is just fatigue? You know that tingling in your feet that comes and goes and you tell yourself it is nothing? You know how much harder it is to heal from a small cut than it used to be. Those are not random symptoms. Those are your blood vessels telling you that AGEs have been accumulating, that inflammation has been building, that the damage is underway. The data on complications is clear, and it is devastating. According to the Office of Minority Health, Black and African American adults are more than twice as likely as the general population to develop kidney failure caused by diabetes. A study published in Diabetes Care found that the prevalence of diabetic retinopathy, the eye disease that leads to blindness, is 38.8% among Black individuals, compared to 26.4% among white individuals. Research from multiple institutions has documented that African Americans with diabetes are approximately 2.6 times more likely to have significant vision loss than their white counterparts. Let me say that again. Same disease, same diagnosis code, but your kidneys are failing faster. Your eyes are deteriorating sooner. Your risk of losing a limb to amputation is dramatically higher. If this were happening to any other community at these rates, it would be treated as a crisis. For us, it is treated as a footnote in the statistics. You might be saying, Marcus, that sounds like genetics. Are you telling me my DNA is the problem? No, that is not what I am telling you. What I am telling you is that the interaction between your biology, your environment, your access to care, and the protocols that were designed without you in mind creates a perfect storm. Genetic studies in African populations have identified unique variants associated with glycemic traits that are not found in European populations. A genome-wide association study in the AWI-Gen cohort, which included participants from Burkina Faso, Ghana, Kenya, and South Africa, found novel signals related to insulin resistance and beta cell function that had never been identified in studies focused on European ancestry populations. This means that the genetic architecture of diabetes-related traits may differ by ancestry. But here is the critical point. Different does not mean defective. Different means that the one-size-fits-all approach to diabetes management is scientifically insufficient. Your body deserves care that accounts for how it actually works, and the research exists to provide that care. What does not exist, in most clinical settings, is the translation of that research into practice. If you are finding value in this information, if this is helping you understand something about your own health that you have wondered about for years, I want to ask you to do something simple. Leave a comment below and tell me, has anyone ever explained to you why diabetes complications might affect you differently than what you see in the general guidelines? Has your doctor ever discussed your specific risk factors based on your ancestry? I want to hear from you because your experience matters, and the more we share these stories, the more we build a community that demands better. Let me give you the practical information now. What can you actually do with everything I have just told you? First, ask your doctor to test your fasting insulin level, not just your fasting glucose. If your insulin is consistently elevated, that is information that should inform your treatment plan. Many doctors do not order this test routinely. You may need to request it specifically. If they ask why, tell them you want to understand your full metabolic picture. You have every right to that information. Second, ask about your kidney function specifically. Request a urine albumin to creatinine ratio. This test can detect early signs of kidney damage long before your standard labs show a problem. Given that Black individuals with diabetes are more than twice as likely to develop kidney failure, early detection is not optional. It is essential. Third, make sure you are getting an annual dilated eye exam. Not a quick look with a light in a dim room. A full dilated examination by an eye care specialist who can see the back of your retina and detect early changes before your vision is affected. The rates of diabetic retinopathy in our community are staggering. You cannot afford to wait until you notice symptoms. Fourth, pay attention to your feet. Check them every day for cuts, blisters, changes in color, areas of numbness. Neuropathy, the nerve damage caused by diabetes, starts quietly. By the time you notice you cannot feel a pebble in your shoe, the damage is already significant. Early intervention for foot problems can prevent the cascade that leads to amputation. Fifth, ask your doctor about newer medication classes. There are medications that offer kidney and heart protection beyond their glucose-lowering effects. These drugs, including SGLT2 inhibitors and GLP-1 receptor agonists, have shown significant benefits in reducing complications, but they are not always prescribed first. If you are not on one of these medications and you have diabetes with any signs of kidney or heart risk, ask why not. Now I want to be clear about something. Everything I am telling you today is educational. It is not a substitute for the personalized care you deserve from a physician who knows your complete medical history. What I am doing is giving you the language and the knowledge to have better conversations in that exam room. I am giving you the questions to ask. Your doctor should be a partner in your health, not a gatekeeper who decides what you are allowed to know about your own body. Let me bring this together. The reason diabetes destroys Black bodies faster is not a mystery. It is documented in the scientific literature. It involves different patterns of insulin resistance and beta cell function. It involves the accumulation of advanced glycation end products and the inflammatory damage they cause. It involves complications that develop earlier and progress more aggressively in our community. And it involves a healthcare system that has been slow to translate research on population differences into clinical practice. You are not imagining that your disease feels harder to manage. The data confirms it. But here is what I want you to take away from this. Your body is not broken. Your body is responding to a disease in ways that are consistent with your biology. When you understand that, you stop blaming yourself for outcomes that are shaped by factors far beyond personal discipline. And when you have the language to advocate for the care you need, you become harder to dismiss. The body responds to accurate information at any stage. It is never too late to ask better questions, to request better monitoring, to push for treatment approaches that account for who you actually are. That is not demanding special treatment. That is demanding appropriate treatment. Here is your challenge for the next 7 days. Pick one of the action steps I mentioned and commit to it. Maybe it is scheduling that eye exam you have been putting off. Maybe it is writing down the question about fasting insulin so you remember to ask at your next appointment. Maybe it is starting to check your feet every morning before you put your shoes on. Just one thing. Do it consistently for 7 days. Notice what you learn about your own body when you start paying attention in a new way. And when you go to your next appointment, bring this question with you. Given my ancestry and what the research shows about diabetes progression in people of African descent, are we monitoring me as aggressively as we should be? Watch how your doctor responds. That response will tell you a lot about whether you have a partner who sees you or a system that is still catching up to the science. If this information helped you, I want you to share it with someone in your family who is also living with diabetes. This is not just about you, this is about all of us. Subscribe to the channel so you do not miss the next conversation. We are building something here. We are building a community that refuses to accept outdated information about our own bodies. That matters. You matter. And I will see you in the next video.